Exterior, water fountain in Scotland. Evening. The next scene comes into view. We see water running out of a stone waterway into a very small pond/fountain underneath. We see just enough of the environment to see that the top of the waterway has stone claws on it. And then after a beat, we hear the water slosh harder and harder before a set of white, silvery, muscular arms burst out of the water tunnel. Its claws grasp the side of the waterway, just underneath the stone statue's claws. As more of the figure emerges, the camera zooms out and shows more of the environment. A stone gargoyle on top of the waterway, candles, bones, and more sculptures to the right of it. A large castle in the distance and stone archway to the left of it. The figure fully emerges from the tunnel, rising to its feet slowly. We finally see who it is. Phalanx. He steps out of the fountain and onto the main stone pathway. Not 2 steps later, a large swarm of bats flies at him. He swats at them, annoyed. Phalanx. Pestiferous rats. The bats then congregate to the other side of him and instantly and flashily transform into a beautiful woman with sea foam green hair, black corset-like outfit, and pink tights with purplish bats on them. It is the succubus, Morgan. Morgan. Is that any way to speak to a lady? Phalanx looks at her with a mixture of bewilderment and annoyance. He turns away only to find a double of Morgan suddenly in his path. Morgan. Your heart is so cold. Why don't you let me warm it up a bit? Phalanx. Begone, enchantress. Important matters require my attention, and you are not one of them. Phalanx takes the book out from his cloak, which again shakes out the water from its pages. The eye on its cover opens up and with a bright light scans Morgan. Morgan. Ah! She is temporarily stunned from the light. As she recovers, a page flies toward the screen, giving us a brief bio on Morgan and shows the game she is from. The page then flies into the book, and Phalanx looks at the page. Phalanx, reading the book. A succubus. Heiress to House Ainsland. I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. Ainsland, and next in line to rule over the Mackay realm. Such crass behavior is hardly befitting of royalty. Morgan. Oh, I don't care about that dusty throne. I'd rather play. Phalanx throws the book up into the air. It opens and starts flying, flapping both covers as it disappears into the distance, scanning things as it does. Phalanx to Morgan. Well then, since you shirk off your obligation to rule, I, Phalanx, king of the demon realm, shall do it for you. Cutscene ends, battle starts. The player fights Morgan 1v1 here. Phalanx is meant to win. Battle ends, cutscene starts. Phalanx stands over Morgan, who's lying on the ground. Phalanx. How disappointing. This realm deserves a ruler strong enough for the task. He then looks to his right across the pathway and sees the castle in the distance. Phalanx. While the book searches for Yoshichi, I think I shall inspect the throne to determine if it will be suitable for its future king. Morgan floats to her feet, seemingly unscathed. Morgan. Done so soon? I'll just have to look for someone else to satisfy me. For now. Morgan then bursts into a cloud of bats once again, and flies into and beyond Phalanx. He puts up his arms and makes a disgruntled sound as they fly around him. The swarm heads towards the castle. Exterior, castle, evening. Future. Slight jump ahead. The top of the castle is in frame and the camera slowly pans down until finally reaching the door. We see Phalanx taking the last final steps to the giant door of the castle. He reaches his hand up to push it in, but before he can touch it, it creaks and then slowly opens. Cautiously, he enters. Once inside, the door slams shut behind him, alarming him slightly. Interior, Romanian castle, evening, continuous. Editor's note. I totally did not know that Dimitri's stage was not the inside of the Ainsland castle, so I originally wrote this scene as though it was making it all seem kind of like a psychic illusion or manipulation, which makes more sense as we read on. Realistically, this can either stay or a new stage can be created that depicts the inside of Morgan's castle. Once inside, he, slightly frightened, quickly looks out of the window. To his surprise, the environment on the other side of the window does not resemble the one he walked into the castle from at all. Windy, dark, and raining with a multitude of trees blowing in the wind in an Eastern European-looking village in the distance. He goes to open the door and cannot. Knowing this, he reluctantly turns around and sees paintings on the walls, lit torches with demon/vampiric faces in both the flames and the torches themselves. Masked men and women dancing, unmasked women fanning themselves, and a giant coffin straight ahead with a large throne behind it. The throne has a vampire face sculpture at the very top portion of the throne. There are also curving staircases on both sides and chains, hooks/cages, hanging from the ceiling. He continues to walk forward, closer and closer to the coffin. Upon taking his first step onto the few stairs leading down into the area with the people, torches, coffin, etc., the dancing stops. Everyone looks at him for a moment and then vanish into thin air. The torches extinguish immediately and the color of the decor changes drastically and becomes darker, greener, and less vibrant. Phalanx slowly takes another step down and we hear a whirring sound get louder and louder as though a spinning object is approaching. He lifts his foot to take another step and then we see a spinning sword fly right towards Phalanx. He narrowly dodges the sword and quickly turns around to see it has lodged itself into the ground behind him. We see a low camera shot where the sword is, followed by the legs of an unknown figure stepping towards it. The sword then comes out of the ground and the camera pans up, revealing a man with large beads draped across his body, holding the sword and putting it on his back, though it floats there. Donovan. It has been a long time since a new terror emerged from the darkness. Name your business here, monster. Phalanx. I suggest you watch your tongue, wretched human, before I rip it from your throat. Soon I shall conquer your realm and be its king. Kneel before me and I might spare you. Donovan poses with both of his hands and the sword begins to circle around him. Donovan. Humanity will never bow to you. I shall cleanse this world of your wicked blood. Cutscene ends, battle starts. Donovan and Phalanx fight here. I suppose it doesn't matter who wins because Donovan is meant to lose and then transform into D, his evil version who I've included as part of the roster. Perhaps it's just D in a Donovan costume with a limited moveset. Either that or D could be a transformation / install for Donovan perhaps. Battle ends, cutscene starts. We see Phalanx holding up Donovan by the throat as he struggles to get free. Phalanx laughs. Phalanx. What on earth made you think you, a mortal man, could defeat me? Donovan starts making sounds and yelling in pain. Blood spills from the corners of his mouth. Donovan, you fool. The darkness, it's taking me. We see a red, wispy aura emanate from Donovan as he continues to scream. It surrounds him and pushes Phalanx back, forcing him to release Donovan. Donovan slowly rises from his sprawled landing stance, breathing heavily. His clothing is now different along with his hair. D, no, what have I become? I must be put to rest. Cutscene ends, battle starts. We fight 1v1 again, but instead of fighting Donovan, you fight D. He has Donovan's moves along with a variety of new ones. Maybe he has more strength and less health too, or vice versa. Phalanx is meant to win, but it's supposed to be more evenly matched. Battle ends, cutscene starts. We come out of the fight seeing the two of them exchange blows. Phalanx ultimately wins out and grabs him by the throat again, lifting him up. D does not struggle, making Phalanx ironically uncomfortable. Suddenly, he stops completely and slowly fades into darkness, disappearing. The throne, the coffin, the paintings, everything we see does the same. Phalanx looks bewildered. We then hear an unknown voice, the voice of a young woman. It seems to be coming from all directions at once. Mystery voice. His life is not yours to take. It does not concern you, Phalanx. You know nothing of my concerns. What kind of sorcery is this? Finally, Phalanx is alone, in a black void. Mystery voice. I know what you seek, but I beg of you to give up your search. Constructing the orb will have dire consequences. Phalanx. Your lies do not scare me, witch. Now relinquish your grasp on my mind. Phalanx gathers energy at his mouth and lets off one of his familiar electrified orbs of light. It flies off into the distance and then curves upward until it stops. High above is a tiny white speck of light. The speck then bursts into a magnificent sun. Interior. Don't know. Night. The void Phalanx was in is now occupied by many things. A sun with a face and clouds surrounding it, falling stars, a coliseum, a staircase to nowhere, various sculptures, and various colors. Editor's note. I know that technically this stage is Pyron's home planet. It could be implied that the mystery woman has taken Phalanx there in his mind, or it could be a stage similar to this one that is meant to be a constructed world within his mind. I just tried to use as many canon stages as possible within this manuscript. Phalanx looks at his new surroundings, puzzled. Suddenly, the woman who has been communicating with Phalanx all this time appears in front of him. She has long brown braids and is wearing a purple dress and a wide-brimmed purple hat. Phalanx quickly charges an energy blast and shoots it at the woman. It approaches her, and then a force field immediately appears before her. It stops the blast and reverses it, sending it back at Phalanx. He crosses his arms in front of him to block the blow, but when the smoke clears after it explodes, he appears slightly injured from it. The voice we heard earlier is heard again, but from the woman, and not from all directions. Anita, I am no witch, and I tell no lies. Phalanx to himself, another human. I did not know they could be such a nuisance. To Anita, witch or not, I shall soon conquer this world and make you my slave. Anita, a slave, just as you are. The face on the sun in the sky fades, as does the rays emanating from around it. The orb of light in the sky becomes pale, white, and faded. Suddenly, the rest of the surroundings fade to black before fading back in as somewhere else. Exterior, Demon Realm courtyard, night. We fade into a courtyard with ivy and vine-traced buildings with windows, various shops, and a water fountain in the center of the courtyard. There are many demons gathered around a very long table. They're having a feast and a celebration. A red demon, similar looking to Firebrand, sits at one end of the table. A young red demon sits beside him. A green demon lifts a goblet of drink, and most of the other demons, aside from the red one, and a few white ones at the other end of the table, follow suit. Green demon. 3 cheers for the red blaze, slayer of King Braeger, and protector of the realm. Demons together. Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! When they first start cheering, the sound fades out a little bit, and we see the red demon stand and lift his goblet to the other demons. His son stands with him and he pats him on the head. We hear Phalanx's voice speak over the action we see, and then Anita's voice again from all directions. Phalanx, voiceover. No. What is this? Anita, voiceover. A slave to your jealousy towards Firebrand, son of the red blaze. The red demon child up at his father, who smiles down at him. The demons laugh and smile. Phalanx, voiceover. You know nothing! The camera pans across the table and gets to the end, opposite. A white demon child looks at all of them, almost from the shadows, with scrutiny and slight disdain. He has no one around him. Cut to a bluish-colored demon standing up and lifting his goblet to the red blaze. Blue demon. Perhaps it is time we had our own king. And I'm sure I speak for all demons present when I say our first king should be the red blaze himself. Demons together. Yeah! Red blaze. Now. Your adulation, while appreciated, is unnecessary. Our realm has seen enough kings for a while. We need to govern ourselves. Besides, should the need ever arise for a singular ruler, I would think young Firebrand here would be better fit than I. Blue demon. Then to us, and to young Firebrand. Demons together. Hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray. Anita, voiceover. Jealousy towards his legendary heritage, his privilege, and praise. Phalanx, voiceover. Enough! Anita, voiceover. Jealousy that his father did not abandon him the same way yours abandoned you. Phalanx, voiceover. I said enough! The screen fades to black again. We see nothing but darkness and Anita looking around her frantically, similar to Nash's super in Street Fighter V. We then see a pair of glowing eyes and the faint outline of horns and sharp teeth behind her. Phalanx's voice is deep and booming as he starts laughing. The screen splits and cracks as if it's made out of glass, and then shatters, revealing the abstract background with the sun, and then finally, the castle Phalanx was originally in. Anita is in front of him on the ground, sweating and breathing heavy, on hands and knees. Interior, Romanian castle, evening, present. Anita. How? Phalanx. I have bared witness to the demon civil war. Bodies on top of bodies. Mountains of death ever growing. Your mind's tricks cannot compare to the horrors my mind has endured. Anita, please, do not construct the orb. I'm begging you, Phalanx. I shall do whatever I please. Now, let's see how strong your mind is. Cutscene ends, battle starts. Nothing too noteworthy here. Just a 1v1 of Phalanx and Anita. The player is meant to control Phalanx and win. Battle ends, cutscene starts. We exit the cutscene with Anita lying on the ground. Phalanx. Those ungrateful of my mercy do not deserve it. If you do not wish to serve me, then you shall die! He charges energy at his mouth and blasts Anita where she lies. There's a small explosion where it lands in a cloud of smoke. As the smoke clears, we see Anita unscathed. Then Anita's body slowly disappears in a smoky, misty sort of dissipation, revealing that she was never actually there physically. Phalanx. So, it was all done non-locally through her strange magic. It would be impressive if not for its cowardice. Phalanx takes to the air and shoots like an arrow towards one of the castle's windows. He breaks through the window effortlessly, revealing Scotland and the pathway to Ainsland Castle. Exterior, Ainsland Castle, evening, present. Hovering in the air, he sees the enchanted book fly towards him. He grabs hold of it. Phalanx. Perfect timing. The book, have you found it? The book opens and flips through a number of pages before stopping. Phalanx. Good. Lead me to it. The book starts flying slightly ahead of Phalanx, who follows behind it. We see them both fly off into the distance. Exterior, Ruby's airship, top deck, day, present. Ruby's airship hovers above the ocean. We get closer to the top deck and see Ruby, Hagar, Firebrand, Chun-Li, and Amingo huddled in front of the center mast of the ship, with the skull holding the chain in its mouth. Members of Ruby's crew are also on the deck in various places, doing various things. Ruby Heart, to Amingo and Hagar. Well, I'm glad to see you all made it back in one piece. Hopefully your journey was more successful than ours. Amingo. Why? What happened? Ruby Heart. Well, I'll fill you in on the details in a bit, but long story short, we still don't know where Ryu is. Amingo. Wait, really? Man, this can't be good. Ruby Heart. And where's Sylphie? Hagar. Oh, she's down below with the blue bomber, fixing up her thingamajig. Ruby Heart. With who? Sylphie. All done. And boy, is it a beauty. Thanks for all your help, Mega Man. Sylphie and Mega Man are climbing the stairs back to the top deck and say this, / we hear this, just as they reach it. Mega Man. Don't mention it. Dr. Light did most of the work, really. Sylphie leads Mega Man back to the group. Everyone except Firebrand and Hagar recognize him. Ruby Heart. Ah, so that blue bomber. Long time no see. Thanks for coming back with Sylphie as well. Your help with Abyss was invaluable, and looks like we'll need it again, I'm afraid. Mega Man. Hi, Ruby. Wait, need it again? Oh no. Is it just as bad? Chun-Li. Worse, if you can believe it. Worse than Onslaught, too. Still, it's good to see you, Mega Man. Mega Man. Worse? Oh, boy. Then it's definitely a good thing I came with Sylphie. But it's good to see you too, Chun. I'm surprised you're still fighting after all these years. How old are you now? Cutscene ends, battle starts. Here's a short fight between Chun-Li and Mega Man. It's meant more to drive the joke home than anything of Chun-Li being sensitive about her age and not letting people know how old she is. When you enter the battle, Chun-Li will say something like, "Is that any way to treat a lady?" Or, "I'm young enough to beat you." The player can be either character here, but if they control Mega Man, Chun-Li will be on max CPU difficulty. Regardless of whether the player or CPU is Chun, she has unlimited super meter during the battle. Battle ends, cutscene starts. We come out of the battle to see Hagar in between Mega Man and Chun-Li, holding her back from him as Mega Man's on the floor. Hagar. Cool it, Chun. I think he's learned his lesson. Chun-Li, smiling nervously and reaching down to help him up. I guess I just got a little carried away. You won't forget your manners next time, right, Mega Man? His hand has reached out towards her, but there are stars over his head and swirls in his eyes. Mega Man. He collapses comically back to a lying, knocked-out position after making his incoherent noises. The rest of the group looks at Chun-Li for a beat with their arms crossed. Chun-Li. He'll be fine. Everyone either shakes their head, puts their hands on their head, or chuckles. Sylphie approaches Ruby and reaches her arm out. She's holding a flat, round device. Sylphie. He better be. After all, he did help me build this. She hands it to Ruby. Ruby Heart. What's this? Sylphie. Introducing the Y-Tracker. Patent pending. With this baby, we can locate large deposits of Yashichi all around the world. Then we can mark the coordinates on our map and set sail. Firebrand. Excellent work. Ruby Heart. Yeah, Sylphie. Thank you. We owe you one. I'm glad your mission was fruitful, unlike ours. Sylphie. Well, don't give up. I know we don't have the money to ask the map for Ryu's location, but look. Interior, enchanted map, continuous. We get taken to the map screen once again. More locations light up and get highlighted across it with the same red dots used to indicate previous locations of interest. We see character dialogue as subtitles on the bottom of the screen in this mode, but we still hear character voices, of course. Sylphie. Looks like the map has more places for us to visit. And here, while we're looking at it, we hear beeping and then see a large across the map, stop at various points, and then hear a scribbling noise as it puts an X on the map in various spots, many of them overlapping with other areas of interest that will provide money and character recruitment. Sophie. There. Now that I've marked those deposits the Y tracker picked up on, we won't have to switch back and forth. Now, let's pick a direction and fly, Ruby Heart. All right then. Is everybody ready? From here, the player gets a prompt. They can say yes, they are ready, in which case they choose their team of 3 and pick a place on the map. They can choose something like need more practice, where they can choose 2 teams of 3 and then spar, fight, as long as they'd like. Once the player says they're ready, all the characters say, yeah, before you pick your location on the map. You also get a prompt that Mega Man has joined your party and see a description of his passive skill. Essentially, this segment kicks off another World Tour-esque portion of the game. Apart from just picking locations, I think it would be fun to include a quote-unquote free-fly mode that lets the player move the ship around the map without restrictions. This is how the player could discover secret battles, by trying to land in places that look a little conspicuous or not, but don't have a marker on them, and maybe Easter eggs, i.e. flying to India and someone commenting about how it's where Dalsum lives, then being asked if they want to visit, selecting yes, being taken to an RPG-like dialogue screen with character portraits and text windows with Dalsum where you chat for a bit and he gives you a usable relic or something. In between some of the battles, I think it would be good to have certain characters, in my mind, namely Amingo, ask Ruby if they can talk or rest. This will give the player a prompt. If they say yes, they'll get additional scenes between specific characters that will provide more story and development. If not, they'll tell her that they understand, and you'll go straight back to choosing the next location. I don't want to force everything on the player. After all, this is a fighting game first and foremost, and most people will be most interested in that. But at the same time, for those interested, I think these could make for some nice development and team building moments, especially before the story progresses further. Here's my idea for areas to visit at this time, as well as possible sequence of events, though there are multiple. 1. Country, Japan. Bathhouse stage from Marvel 1. Character, Ayame. Relic, yes. Sumo championship trophy. Ishichi, yes. In gift shop. E Honda didn't think it was something important. 2. Country, unknown. Abyss's temple. Marvel 2. Characters, Shadow and Shadow Lady. Relic, no. Ishichi, yes. The orbs in between the columns, maybe.
I know. I'm wearing a different shirt now. I know. This is my life.
The following sequence is after the player answers yes to Amingo's prompt / question that pops up of, hey Ruby, you got a minute to talk? Exterior, Ruby's airship, top deck. Night, later. Ruby Heart is sitting on the top deck of her ship near the center mast. Heels, bottom, and hands behind her on the floor, looking up at the stars. She's accompanied by Amingo, and it is just them. Ruby Heart. Just like old times, eh? Amingo. Yeah, I guess it is. We've been traveling together for a while now. Ruby Heart. We sure have. So, what did you want to talk about? Is everything okay? Amingo. Oh, well, You don't need him, you know. Ruby Heart. Who? Amingo. Your dad. Ruby Heart. Amingo. I mean, the guy abandoned you. Why do you care what he thinks? Ruby Heart. We've talked about this. I have to show him that I have what it takes to rejoin his crew. He's one of the greatest pirates who ever lived. Amingo. To who? Ruby Heart. Amingo. You're one of the greatest pirates who ever lived. Why can't you see that? Ruby Heart, getting testy. You keep telling me how great I am, but it's just not true. I'm not special, okay? I couldn't handle Abyss on my own, and I'm probably what woke it up in the first place. I don't know what's wrong with me, but finding the eye is my one chance to fix it. Amingo. Ruby Heart. So I can't let it go. I have to try. And he's the only family I have left. You wouldn't understand. Amingo. Hurt. I wouldn't understand? You know, before you took me on as part of your crew, I had nothing. No home, no family, nothing. I had no one because, as far as I know, I'm the last of my kind. I'm all that's left. And I actually started to feel like maybe, just maybe, this ship was my home. And that maybe you were my family. But if he's all you have, I guess I was wrong. I'm so stupid. It looks like you're right, Captain. I guess I wouldn't understand after all. Amingo, wait. I didn't mean... Before she could continue and try to reassure him, Amingo gets up and leaves her side, descending to his room in the deck below. He is visibly hurt emotionally, wiping tears away as he retreats. Ruby looks down in shame, then takes off her hat, holds it in her hands, and looks back up at the stars. After this cutscene, Amingo will no longer be selectable for the player's team for a while. At least not for the rest of this quote-unquote World Tour segment. Okay, so from here, I'll go over some of the other areas that will be selectable for the World Tour segment. 3. Country. I'm guessing China, but I'm not really sure. It's the swamp alternate stage from Marvel 2, which is Sun stage, I'm pretty sure. Character, Sun. Relic, yes. Magic lamp. Yoshichi, no. 4. Country, USA. Balrog stage, Street Fighter. Barbara from Battle Circuit. Relic, yes. Casino chip. Yoshichi, no. 5. Country, Japan. Akuma stage, Third Strike. Character, Akuma. Can't recruit. Relic, yes. Jizo statue. Yoshichi, yes. This would be a secret fight. If the player does free fly mode, and they fly near the area, the white tracker will go off and Sylphie will prompt the player if they want to check it out. Then the details of the fight will be revealed as far as difficulty, etc. You'll fight Akuma and then the stage will turn red and he'll recover all of his health and you have to fight Shin Akuma. It is supposed to be a very hard fight, but the player can retry as many times as they like. The Relic, Fight Money, and Yoshichi amount should all be very high for beating it. It's more like a challenge fight. 6. Country, don't know, but it would be a stage similar to Blue Area on the Moon from Marvel 1. Character, Strider. Relic, Capsule. Yoshichi, yes. Once the player does enough fights, maybe 2, to keep it quick while allowing the player to do more if they so choose, Sylphie will have speech bubbles or just captions on the map letting the player know they have enough to find Ryu and a new area will appear on the map after Sylphie asks the map to find him. After the Ryu sequence, another new area will appear, and they will be notified that once they enter the area, fight with Alien Green. Spoilers. They will have all the Yoshichi they need to form a fragment, but will no longer be able to freely explore the map. Ruby can say something like, I have a feeling we won't be doing much traveling once we explore that cavern. Is everyone ready? This will notify the player that once they visit this particular area, they'll be back on the rails of story progression. Exterior, the Cliff of Desolation from Marvel 1. Day, later. The airship hovers above a tall cliff, mist just below its plateau. Mountainous land surrounds the area, but cannot do anything to affect the feeling of loneliness and isolation here. We see Ruby approach the rope ladder at the edge of the ship from a low shot looking up at her. She's looking down at the cliff, thinking there has to be some sort of mistake. Other characters are nearby. Ruby Heart to Sylphie. Sylphie, are you sure this is the right place? Sylphie. According to the map, and it hasn't been wrong so far, especially after gobbling up so much money. Ruby Heart. Well, I hope it hasn't had a change of heart. If I'm not back in 10 minutes, send someone after me. Sylphie. Sure thing. I'll send a Mingo if you're taking a while. Ruby Heart. No, don't disturb him. We had a little... It doesn't matter. I'll be back soon. Chun-Li. Approaching Ruby. I'm going with you. I've fought too many battles with Ryu to not make sure he's alright. Ruby Heart. I understand. Let's be off then. Ruby and Chun descend the rope ladder and we see them climb all the way down, dropping off just above the ground. They land softly but have concerned looks on their faces. After wandering for a while, searching throughout the plain, rocky flats, they come across a figure kneeling in front of a giant stone wall. He is shirtless, wearing a tattered white gi around his waist, white pants, and wrappings around his hands and feet. His hair dark brown and unkempt. As Ruby and Chun approach him, he slowly looks over his shoulder. He then turns to them fully, standing up. It is Ryu. He has a full beard, but perhaps more noticeably, he is not wearing his signature red headband. As we get a closer look, we see the red band of material is actually wrapped around his right fist, on top of the other wrappings. He looks tired and serious. As he approaches them, they can see the part of the stone wall he was facing. It has a large number of tally marks carved into it, as if someone had been counting the number of days. Chun-Li runs to him and hugs him. Ryu does not hug her back, keeping his arms at his sides, and appears more closed off than anything. Chun-Li. Ryu! Oh, thank goodness you're all right. We've all been so worried. Ryu. Chun-Li, you interrupt my training. I ask that you leave this place immediately. Chun-Li. But... Ryu. Leave me. Until it is complete, I endanger everyone around. Ruby Heart.
We know what happened, Ryu. We spoke with Oro. Ryu looks intently at Ruby Heart and then looks down, closing his eyes for a moment, as if reliving painful memories. Ryu, you spoke with Master Oro? Then you knew I was in hiding, hoping not to be found. Why are you here, Ruby Heart? When we first fought together, you helped me gather heroes from around the world in order to save it. This time, the enemy is even greater, and we need more numbers. We need your help, Ryu. Ryu looks down again, pondering, but for a moment. He then turns away from them, looking back at the wall with the tally marks. Ryu, I cannot help you, Ruby Heart. But we need you, Ryu. No, I could not save him. My presence, my weakness put him at risk, and he paid the ultimate price. In battle, I would be a burden, nothing more. Chun-Li.
Ryu, please. We know you're upset. Anyone would be, but Ken is still alive.
Ryu's eyes widen despite his skepticism. For a brief moment, he experiences a flicker of hope. Ryu, that's impossible. Are you certain? Ruby Heart. Yes, Oro showed him to us. He's still unconscious, but his eyes narrow back to normal and he shakes his head in disappointment. In confirmation of him feeling the optimism was unwarranted. What little levity he experienced vanishes as quickly as it arrived. Ryu. For a moment I felt hope. I had nearly forgotten what that felt like. But even if he's survived, he's not truly living. Is he?
Chun-Li. You aren't responsible for what happened that day.
Ryu, bitterly.
Aren't I? It was me Akuma wanted. It always is. And after everything, all of my battles, all of my training, I allowed myself to get cast aside. Effortlessly.
Ruby Heart.
Ryu. I was born an orphan. No family. No reason to care about anyone else. But when Master Goken took me in, he changed that. I met Ken soon after, and I suddenly had both a father and a brother. I had a family. I had a new reason to fight and get stronger. And in my brother's time of need, I failed him.
Ruby Heart, identifying with his words in her own way, looks down, saddened. She knows there is nothing more she can tell him. Ryu looks down again, intently at his right fist. He closes his eyes briefly, as though seeing a painful vision yet again, and then opens his eyes. Ryu.
The man you remembered and hoped to find here is gone. Until I get stronger, I am just as much a threat to you as the one you speak of. This is why I must complete my training, no matter how long it takes. I am truly sorry. Now leave me be.
Ryu turns away from them and approaches the stone wall once again. He kneels before it, takes a sharpened stone that lies in front of the wall, and begins to etch another tally into the wall. Ruby and Chun look at each other with sadness and confusion in their eyes. They start to walk away, but Chun-Li quickly turns back towards him to share one last thing. Chun-Li. Strength and self-loathing are two different things. Real strength is having the courage to go on with your life, choosing to live and to fight, even when defeat is the most likely outcome. The man I remembered knew that. Do you? Ryu in his kneeling position stops etching and turns his head slightly to his left, to the side, over his shoulder. He then looks down slightly for a beat before looking at the stone wall again, and continuing to etch the mark into it. Ruby and Chun-Li continue walking back the way they came, airship hovering in the near distance. Interior airship, Ruby's quarters, day. Later. We now jump to Ruby's quarters in the airship. Ruby Heart, Chun-Li, Hagar, Sylphie, Mega Man, and Firebrand are there, and the door is open. Amingo is noticeably absent. The heroes are all gathered in the room, discussing what happened with Ryu and what is going to happen next. Hagar.
Wait a minute. You told Ryu what's going on and he's still not coming with us?
Chun-Li. Yeah, it's just like Oro said. He's not the same person we remember. He still blames himself for what happened to Ken. Looks like we'll have to fight without him. Ruby Heart to Chun-Li. Can you help us find more heroes, Chun? Chun-Li. Not really. I've been pretty out of touch with everyone since training to open up my own dojo. Sure, there were some at the tournament, but we didn't talk much. Not to mention all the new faces. Ruby Heart. Damn it. Without more heroes, without Ryu, we're doomed. As she says this, Ruby looks down, discouraged. A few other heroes do as well for a beat. Firebrand.
Not entirely.
Ruby and the heroes look up at him.
Phalanx is formidable indeed. But as it stands, our numbers are still considerably greater than his. And while I do not know this man-fighter of whom you all speak, you, Ruby Heart, are as great a warrior and leader as I've ever seen.
Ruby Heart. Leader?
No,
Chun-Li to Ruby. He's right. When we fought Abyss together, you fought just as well as any of us. Even Ryu. Mega Man. Even I had a hard time keeping up with you. Ruby Heart. Well, thanks, but... Hagar.
Oh, don't get all shy now. You've been leading us the whole time.
Sylphie. Yeah. Finding Mega Man was only possible because you were so organized. You split us into teams and figured it all out, remember? Ruby Heart. That's generous, but... Mingo. Right, Ruby. You're the best leader any of us could ask for. We can't do this without you. Ruby and the rest of the heroes look up to see Mingo at the doorway. He gives her a slight smile and nod. Ruby gives him a slight smile back, looks down for a moment, and then hears the words Oro told her as she was leaving his cave. Oro, voiceover to Ruby. Who do you want to be? Because you get to decide. Ruby Heart looks back up at Amingo and gives him a nod back. Ruby Heart to Amingo. Thank you, old friend, to everyone. Thank you all. I am proud to be the leader of such an incredible and kind group of heroes. And I promise you, I will do my very best. Firebrand is right. Our numbers are still greater than his, and we can win, but we better think fast. For all we know, he's already breached our world. Hagar.
Hey, I got an idea. Why don't we just use the orb thingy, assuming we get it, to make old Hornhead kick the bucket?
Firebrand. No.
Whenever a time loop in the demon realm results in his death, the events that follow are utterly catastrophic. If the same were to be true once our time flow is mended, our world may never recover. Inconvenient as it may be, Phalanx must live. Chun-Li.
Well, what about the time crest? Can't we look into the future so we know what to expect? Firebrand.
Unfortunately, the stone is only connected to the past, not the future. It will show us nothing we have not yet seen.
Sylphie, whining. Why do magic items always have so many rules? I guess whatever we do, we can't let him grant any wishes, right? He could wish for more power and then we'd be totally screwed. Amingo. And we can't use the orb to destroy itself right away. Those wishes are too valuable, especially to Firebrand. And Ruby. Ruby looks at Amingo and smiles solemnly. Suddenly we hear a beeping, some sort of alert. Hagar.
What the hell is that?
Sylphie. Sorry, everyone. Sorry. Looks like the white tracker is picking up on a new Yashichi deposit. This might be the mother lode. Ruby Heart.
Why didn't it pick up on it before?
Mega Man. Dr. Light had some similar blueprints, but this is the first one to ever be built. It's still in its prototype phase. Ruby Heart. Even still, we've managed to visit quite a few deposits without finding Phalanx. Best case scenario, we'll have our own orb before he ever shows up. Amingo. And worst case scenario? Firebrand.
Let us pray we do not find out.
The camera holds on Firebrand's face as he says this line. Fade out. Before the story continues, there will be a prompt letting the player know that Ruby Heart, Firebrand, and Sylphie are going to explore the location of the new deposit, and asking if they want to spar with the other characters before they continue. This will give them time to practice with their new team, and an opportunity to do as much fighting as they want with the team before the next segment. Interior cavern, day, later. Fade in. As the image of Firebrand's face fades out, a new image fades in. The face of a cave that looks like a monster in the distance, although the entrance to it, its mouth, is accessible from walking on the ground, as opposed to its Marvel 2 iteration where climbing would have to be involved. It is meant to overlap well with Firebrand's features. We then get a close shot of Firebrand, Ruby Heart, and Sylphie walking through the cavern on a gray stone pathway. Sylphie is holding and looking at the Y tracker as they walk. She also has a bag slung across her body from the shoulder. There's a green, glowing water throughout the cave, and some of the water glows in between cracks in their path. We hear a faint beeping that gets louder once the camera gets closer to the heroes. Sylphie. Are you sure we shouldn't go back and get the others? Firebrand.
It is best they stay with the ship. The ominous nature of this place might require a swift exit.
Ruby Heart. Firebrand is right. We can never be too careful. This place still gives me the creeps. So it's best we stay on guard. Any luck, Sylphie? Sylphie. Well, it says we're practically standing on the deposit, but I don't see any. Hitting the device. Come on, you stupid piece of junk! The beeping stops. Sylphie. Oops. Firebrand.
Perhaps we are standing on it. However, if we were, we do not possess any digging instruments.
Ruby Heart. We wouldn't be able to dig through this rock if we tried. I guess we have no choice but to search the inner chamber. The camera suddenly changes so that we are looking at the heroes from top down, from the ceiling of the cavern. We see a plant-like creature stuck to the ceiling of the cavern. Its midsection of green opens slightly, revealing an eye. The eye blinks a couple of times before finding the heroes and gazing at them. Sylphie. You mean the part that looks like a giant monster mouth? No way! I'm not going in there. Ruby Heart. Do we have any other choice? Besides, last time I was here, there wasn't anything inside! Right as Ruby is in the middle of saying inside, the plant-like creature drops down from the ceiling onto the stone path in front of them. It breathes heavily as drool drops down from its teeth, vines slithering on its body in a tendril-esque fashion. It's Alien Green, a character from Capcom's beat-em-up Battle Circuit. Sylphie, nervously to Ruby. You were saying? The plant creature looks at them with a strange amount of poise and calmness, but then starts talking. Alien Green. Who the hell are you guys? Putting a vine up to its ear. Hey, Harry, who are these weirdos? This part of that new assignment you were talking about? Sylphie. Weirdos? Look who's talking. And who's Harry? We hear a radio-filtered voice from Green's ear respond to him. Harry, voiceover. Definitely not, Green. I'm not even sure where you are. But bring him in, and I'll search the database for any outstanding bounties they might be associated with. Alien Green. Sounds good. Finally, some excitement. Why did I make his voice Carl from Aqua Teen? Yeah, sounds good. Finally, some excitement over here. Cutscene ends. Battle starts. When the fight starts, before you are able to control your characters, Alien Green makes a comment about 3-on-1 not being fair. He then uses his quote-unquote alien magic ability and coughs up 2 brown egg-like vessels. They both hatch into copies of Alien Green, which will be his team members, so it's 3v3, each named Alien Green copy, and 1 color apiece, a la 11/12. Note, I know this isn't something he can do in his game, but seemed like a good thing to allow him to do for the player's sake. Once a copy is defeated, it can have a cool death animation, like turning into goo or melting and then fading. The player is meant to win this fight. Battle ends, cutscene starts. The battle ends with Alien Green getting knocked away and covering its eye with its vine arms crossing over it. Alien Green. Ouch! Screw this. Harry, send me a jet bike. I'm heading back to HQ. Harry, voiceover. Like I said, Green, I don't know where you are. Alien Green bounds over the heroes and stretches his arms to the top of the ceiling, swinging away like Spider-Man. Alien Green as he's swinging away. Well, hurry up and find out. I'm not getting paid enough for this. He makes his way into the distance, out of our sight, and presumably out of the cave. Ruby Heart. I can't believe that thing talked. Firebrand, smiling. I agree. How utterly absurd. Ruby and Sylphie look at Firebrand for a minute, not sure if he's serious or not, and they start laughing. He starts laughing too, and they all start laughing together as they approach and enter the monster mouth of the cave. The camera pulls out, and we're further away from them now as they enter the cavern. And as they walk into it, into darkness, we see, close to the camera, glowing near one of the rock walkways, say that 5 times fast, begin to swirl. The water swirls more and more, creating a whirlpool. This whirlpool churns noticeably more violently than the others we've seen, and it does not look like it is going to stop. The camera holds on it for a beat, and then cuts to our heroes inside the inner chamber. Interior, cavern, inner chamber. Day, continuous. The heroes enter the inner chamber of the cave. It is dark for a moment, and then Sylphie rubs the jewel in her forehead, and it emits light, illuminating the entire cave. The inner chamber opens into a very large cavern and has the same blue, green, gray color palette as the outside. Towards the back of the inner cavern chamber, it begins to narrow into a tunnel, leading out of the entire cavern. The heroes look around at the walls as they walk and notice wall carvings of Abyss, the Yoshichi, and various other things. Ruby Heart. To Sylphie. Thanks for the light, Sylphie. Sylphie. No problem. Ruby Heart. By the way, I never got a chance to ask you about this. Why is your name spelled Sylphie on your cards at the shop? Sylphie. Oh, that? Well, print business is charged by the letter, and we all know how I feel about money, so I improvised. Ruby Heart. Why am I not surprised? Firebrand, a little further ahead, looks up high into the cave ceiling and sees something glowing. A warm, golden color, lodged in the rock. Firebrand takes flight up to it and investigates it. Ruby Heart. And what's in your pouch? You haven't taken it off since we met. Ruby Heart points to the small white pouch Sylphie wears at her side. The question makes Sylphie noticeably nervous. Sylphie. What pouch? Oh, this pouch? Well, that's a little personal. Don't you think? Ruby Heart, confused. What? Firebrand from above. Up here!
I have located something stuck in the cave wall.
Sylphie, relieved to herself. Whew, saved by the demon. Rubyheart, from below to Firebrand. That glow. That might be it. Are you able to get it out? Firebrand, from above.
I shall try.
We then hear a loud impact on the cave wall as Firebrand headbutts the source of the glow. The screen and the earth shake. Sylphie. Whoa! Are you headbutting it? Rubyheart. Firebrand, what are you doing? Firebrand, slightly winded.
Not to worry. Demon skulls are much more resilient than human ones.
He headbutts the wall again. We hear some crumbling. The wall gets struck with one more headbutt and we hear more crumbling as stones, both dull and brilliantly glowing, fall from that spot in the cave ceiling. Firebrand.
Ha ha! 'Tis Yashichi. It has been loosed.
He swoops down to the ground and Ruby and Sylphie run to join him where the stones fell. We get a closer view of what has fallen and confirm that yes, it is Yashichi, a large fragment amidst the other rock and rubble that fell to the ground. Now that it is dislodged from the cave wall, it glows brighter and warmer than ever. The camera now changes positions, looking at the heroes face on. We can see them close up, head on, and well behind them too, and out of the mouth of the monster cavern into some of the outer chamber. Rubyheart. Great job, Firebrand. I can't believe we nearly missed it. Firebrand.
Luckily, demon eyes have their advantages as well.
Rubyheart. Sylphie. Mind doing the honors? Sylphie. All right. Easy now. Sylphie reaches into the bag slung across her and takes out a smaller chunk of a Yashichi orb. The heroes banter and talk amongst themselves about having to be careful with it as Sylphie gently takes the smaller and larger chunk in each respective hand and starts moving them together. From our view, we can just barely make out that in the distance from the outer chamber, the strong whirlpool from earlier never did stop. Long, goat-like horns start to rise out of it, as does a tall, slender yet muscular, menacing figure as well. We then see one of its hands throw something into the air. Our view is now more behind / to the side of the heroes. The two pieces of Yashichi come together and form a much larger piece, looking like nearly a third of an orb. The heroes let out an exclamation of victory as they look at the larger piece. As all of this happens, there is also something floating above the heroes. A book. As they rejoice about their now larger piece of Yashichi, the book opens the eye on its cover, still shut tightly, and silently looks at them for a moment. A light effect washing over the eye. It then turns around towards the outer chamber, flying towards it without flapping. Rubyheart. Perfect. Now let's hurry back to the others. Firebrand.
Indeed. I'm sure they...
Firebrand happens to look towards where they had come in, as the book is almost out of the entrance and recognizes the floating book immediately. Firebrand.
Heavens, no. We're too late.
The camera, now a little shaky, zooms in and darts from where the book is to where it is going. We see Phalanx as he is in our view from a distance. We also notice a crackling sphere of energy quickly released from his mouth. Rubyheart. What? Firebrand. Look out! We see fear on Ruby's face as she realizes the flash of light is coming right at her. She puts an arm up to protect her body. There is a small explosion followed by a dust cloud. Once the smoke clears, we see Firebrand in front of Rubyheart, wings closed. He intercepted the blast, but is breathing heavily. We see that he is somewhat wounded, and there is blood dripping out of his mouth. Rubyheart and Sylphie. Firebrand! Firebrand.
Captain Hart. Ruby, you must promise me one thing.
Rubyheart. Of course. As they are talking, Phalanx enters the inner chamber. Firebrand.
If I fall in battle, you must leave me and escape with the others. Promise me.
Rubyheart. What? No. Don't talk like that. We won't. Firebrand.
Promise me.
Rubyheart. Phalanx. Grinning.
Make the promise, human. He knows he cannot win.
We now see Phalanx menacingly towering over them. He is wearing his tattered cloak, along with his bag / pouch. The camera moves for a moment from him to Rubyheart and Sylphie as new pages show up on the screen, showing us what games they are from, giving us brief bios, and then flying into the book, which is, for some reason, shut tightly. The book then floats upward until it is out of view. Each page is given a minute on the screen, or the player is given a small prompt at the bottom of the screen to let them know to hit the whatever button when they are done reading each page. Firebrand.
Phalanx, you must listen to me. The world is in danger and...
Phalanx.
You still think me foolish enough to believe your convoluted lies about our world so that I might spare you? Coward! You put the Red Blaze to shame. I shall restore the Yashichi to its original form, and become king of not just the demon realm, but all realms.
Rubyheart. Not on my watch. Phalanx. Don't know why I said that way. Phalanx. Looking disgusted.
You humans, always speaking out of turn. Allow me to show you your proper place. In hell!
Cutscene ends. Battle starts. Here the player fights against Phalanx. Firebrand is at about 50% health, but the other characters are at full health. Should be a challenging fight, but the player is meant to win. Perhaps there could be an alternate cutscene where if the player loses, Firebrand uses the Crest of Time to transform into the Demon of Legend, and you fight him again one-on-one. Or there could just be a cutscene of this, allowing Ruby and Sylphie to make a run for it, where Firebrand will meet with them after a few moments with Phalanx's fragment of the Yashichi, where Ruby will make her first wish before Redacted. I will be continuing my writing assuming the player wins. Battle ends, cutscene starts. We exit the cutscene seeing the heroes continue to fight Phalanx. Ruby jumps at him with her anchor and he narrowly dodges, but gets hit by Sylphie's mace flail from behind. He goes to strike her, but gets pelted by fireballs launched by Firebrand. He gets knocked on his back and struggles to get up, being noticeably weakened, but soon manages to get on one knee, heaving as blood starts showing around his mouth. Firebrand approaches him. Firebrand.
I do not want to kill you, Phalanx. We are brothers under the banner of demonkind.
Phalanx.
Brothers, you slayed your brothers all those years ago for the crests. Do you not remember?
Firebrand.
I tried to reason with them, but rarely did they leave me any alternative.
Phalanx.
Self-defense? How convenient.
Firebrand.
And what of you when you ambushed me? Your claws have never been clean.
Phalanx.
You and your family, worshipped as kings, saviors of demonkind. So what if I wanted to balance the scales?
Firebrand.
By inflicting further pain on our world? No, this ends now. The choice is yours. Yield or perish.
Phalanx looks around at Ruby, Sylphie, and then back at Firebrand. Phalanx, weakly.
What abominable choices. Yet I suppose there is no other way out. I have been bested. I yield.
Phalanx bows his head steeply. Firebrand walks closer to Phalanx and extends his clawed hand down to help Phalanx up. Phalanx lifts his hand up first without lifting his head, and as he comes to his feet, everyone notices a glow close to Phalanx's chest. Rubyheart and Sylphie. No! Before Firebrand can react, Phalanx lifts his head toward Firebrand, revealing an orb of energy. It explodes between them. Phalanx gets knocked back against a cave wall, but appears to be mostly unscathed. Firebrand is now on the ground, critically wounded. Ruby and Sylphie run over to him. Rubyheart. Firebrand! Are you okay? Firebrand.
I thought it might come to this.
Ruby and Sylphie run towards Phalanx, but he knocks them away, stunning them momentarily. He then approaches Firebrand, who's on the ground. Phalanx.
Don't you see? There is no place for kindness among demons. Only strength. That is something your legendary bloodline always suffered from, which is why it must be eliminated.
Phalanx charges up another blast and releases it, but right before it makes impact, we see Firebrand hold up the green time crest. There is another explosion as the orb makes contact with him, but also a green light shimmering through the smoke. Rubyheart. Firebrand! Sylphie to Phalanx. Damn you! Phalanx.
And now, to deal with his human pets, you will. What? No! It cannot be!
The smoke clears, and Firebrand is standing up, looking different than normal, as though he is in a more powerful form. His skin is a darker red, and he has more spikes on his body, like the image below, but with dark red skin instead of magenta skin, and blue highlights instead of teal. Firebrand.
By the power of time, I hereby activate the potential of my bloodline, the strength of my ancestors, and my inheritance as the demon of legend, the red blaze.
Phalanx.
The crest of time. How?
Firebrand.
It is no longer your concern. Goodbye, Phalanx.
Cutscene ends, battle starts. Here you fight Phalanx 1v1 with the legendary version of Firebrand. The player is meant to win here, and it will probably be an easier fight. Battle ends, cutscene starts. Phalanx begins collapsing, small green-blue embers igniting all across his body. Phalanx.
You will bow before me.
With his last breath, he collapses onto the ground. Firebrand looks at him sadly for a moment, and then reverts back to his normal form. Firebrand.
It is done.
With his collapse, Phalanx's bag falls too. spilling open. A large, 2/3 Yoshichi orb falls out and rolls onto the ground towards the heroes. Sylphie cautiously picks it up and brings it close to the large 1/3 fragment they already had. Sylphie, here goes. As she brings the sides closer together, there is a lot of energy between the parts, but with some sounds of strain and hard effort, the pieces finally come together and form a full orb. The Yoshichi glows brightly, and a four-spoked, fan-like shape fades into view from within the orb. Ruby Heart, we did it. It's over. Firebrand, indeed. Though I am troubled, Phalanx had no other crests with him. It does not seem like him. Sylphie, I hear you, but I'd rather be troubled on the ship than in this place. Let's blow this joint before we find any more surprises. Ruby Heart, right. The heroes start making their way through the tunnel at the back of the inner chamber of the cave, carrying the Yoshichi with them. We see them go deeper and deeper into the tunnel until they are out of view. Then we see Phalanx collapsed on the ground, arm outstretched. The book, still shut tightly, lowers itself gently onto the ground right past his outstretched arm and gently opens up from its tight squeeze to reveal both the crest of water and crest of heaven. The hand suddenly moves, reaching for something, as the book moves towards his hand. For a split second, we see Phalanx's finger weakly and clumsily makes contact with the crest of heaven. Exterior, cavern exit, volcanic rim, evening, continuous. A little later, we see the heroes exit the tunnel into a volcanic area. Volcano in the background giving off a lava flow and large dark plumes of smoke amidst an ashy darkened sky. Essentially the volcanic rim stage of Street Fighter IV. The airship is in the distance, but it is starting to approach their location. Ruby Heart, Firebrand, earlier you said that if Phalanx died, your world... Firebrand, yes, I know, but it was the only way. However, all may not be lost. If the time loop in my realm manages to remain intact upon my return. Sylphie, you can just wait for a new cycle and use the Yoshichi then? Firebrand, assuming the orb is unaffected, yes. To Ruby, now make the first wish, Ruby. Ruby Heart, what? The airship approaches them, hovering overhead, close by. The rope ladder gets dispensed from the side. Firebrand, 'tis our agreement. Remember, you get the first 2 wishes. Afterwards, I shall take it to the demon realm to set things right. Sylphie, smiling. A captain does need to set course, right? Sylphie takes out the map and her pen/marker. Sylphie, let's go find that eye of yours. The airship now pulls in close enough to them so they can climb up the ladder. The other heroes start to look over the railing of the ship, noticing they have the orb and cheering them on. Ruby Heart, I can't believe it. After all this time, my search will finally be over. To Firebrand and Sylphie, thank you. Firebrand and Sylphie smile at her and nod. She takes the orb in her hands. She is visibly excited, happy, and in awe of the orb. Ruby Heart, Yoshichi, I wish for you to show me the location of the Eye of Madura and mark it on this map. Sylphie, yeah! The music in the background dramatically swells as the orb begins to glow strongly. The fan inside of the orb lights up and begins to turn, producing a noise similar to some sort of engine or contraption starting up. And as it starts to speed up, it then stops. The fan loses its light and eventually stops. The orb stops glowing. The music stops. Firebrand, I do not understand. Ruby Heart, visibly confused and upset. Yoshichi, find me the Eye of Madura, now! The orb does the same thing. It glows, the fan starts up, and then it loses its glow, and the fan stops. Sylphie, something's wrong. Ruby Heart, this can't be happening. Why? Why isn't it working? Suddenly, before Ruby can try again, the earth beneath their feet starts rumbling. The heroes lose their balance, and because of this, Ruby loses her balance, dropping the orb. Ruby Heart, no! There's a sound like an explosion as something bursts through the ground in front of them. The ship pulls back a bit. Smoke and ash fill the air, clouding their vision. The heroes start coughing with their arms up and help Ruby to her feet. Ruby Heart to Sylphie and Firebrand. Forget about me. Just get the... Oh, God. As the dust settles, the heroes look up where Ruby is looking, searching for the reason why her voice seems so full of concern and terror, and they find it. In front of them, approaching from the air, hovering towards them, is Phalanx. His elbows are close to his sides, but his arms are out, palms upturned. He looks even stronger, more muscular, more powerful and menacing than before. His wounds seem to have healed, and he has a large, silver-white gem glowing brightly from its place in the middle of his forehead, in the third eye position. When he speaks, his voice now has more presence to it, as if 2 voices are speaking at once. He finally lands on the ground before them and places his foot on the rolling Yoshichi orb, stopping it. Phalanx.
What you fail to realize, Firebrand, is that this is my destiny, my birthright. You cannot escape from death.
Sophie. Firebrand, what's going on? Firebrand.
Blast! He must have hidden the crest nearby in case we defeated him. He is far more dangerous now than before.
Rubyheart. But you've beaten him before, right? Firebrand.
Yes, but that was with 5 of the 6 crests. I fear this fight will be much different.
Amingo looks down over the railing, presumably seeing all of the events unfold. Amingo, from above to the crew. Get closer! From above to the heroes below. Ruby! We're coming! Come on, everyone! Amingo changes himself into a giant beanstalk made of twisting vines going from the ship to the ground below. Chun-Li and Hagar climb down it, and as they make their way to the ground, Amingo reverts back to his normal self. Phalanx looks up at the ship and gives a quick, menacing laugh before quickly firing off an orb made of energy. All heroes. Look out! The energy blast gets dangerously close to the ship, but before it makes impact, we see the blast stop all of its momentum and start floating upwards in what we can barely make out as a bubble. It quickly floats up and above the ship along with a few other bubbles as the ship begins its retreat. A narrow shape of gray and white fly up from the ship and then land on the ground below. It's Mega Man, using the powers of Bubble Man from Mega Man 2. No, if Mega Man X is used instead, this could be Bubble Crab's power. The ship manages to fly away to a safe distance quickly. Phalanx.
What?
All heroes. Mega Man! Rubyheart. Thank you for saving my ship. Mega Man, changing colors from Bubble Man's gray to his signature blue. Don't mention it. Phalanx.
I will admit that was somewhat impressive, but rest assured, you will not win.
Amingo. We'll see about that. To Rubyheart. Ruby, are you okay? Rubyheart. My wish. It didn't. Chun-Li. Don't worry. We'll figure it out later. But first, we have to get the orb back. We have to fight. Rubyheart. Right. Before battle begins, you'll be prompted to choose your team of 3. Then either you will fight with your chosen 3 first, and remaining story characters will jump in as your partner/assists until all are defeated, or you'll choose 2 teams of 3. Rubyheart. Everyone, attack! You see the heroes rush toward Phalanx. Hagar and Chun-Li approach him from his left side, swinging arms and legs. With his foot still on the Yoshichi, he effortlessly absorbs their blows and swings his fists at both of them, knocking them away. Mingo puts his arms into the ground, sending vines to encapsulate his foot and the orb. With his other arm, he swipes at the vines with his claws, cutting them away. Amigo makes a noise in pain and the vines retreat. Phalanx unleashes a laser from his mouth at Sylphie, who quickly materializes a giant shield, but the laser is pushing her back. The laser stops as Phalanx gets pelted in the head with Rubyheart's anchor and a few charge blasts from Mega Man, and then jerks to the other side as Hagar lands a few punches. Chun-Li and Amingo start pulling on the orb to loosen it, but a light starts gathering in the gem in Phalanx's forehead. It gets unleashed, and an almost force field of energy explodes from his body outward, knocking all of the heroes away onto their backs. Phalanx, to something above him.
Take the orb and keep it safe until these miscreants are destroyed.
While the heroes are still coming to their feet, the book swoops in from above. Phalanx takes his foot off of the orb and the book opens, flipping rapidly through its pages until all of the pages come undone. They then wrap around the orb, completely covering it in book pages. The book's eye scanning the heroes as it does so to produce more pages and send them to the orb. Then, when it is done, the page-wrapped orb begins flying straight up into the sky, with the empty book cover/binding resting on the top of the orb. It remains in the sky far above, hovering unseen. Phalanx resumes the pose he had right before he burst through the ground previously, hovering just off of the ground. Ruby stands up in the center, in front of Phalanx. Rubyheart. I've waited too long for this, for my journey to end, and I won't let you take it from me! Sublimation! With the last word, Rubyheart takes a book out of her coat, and as it opens, lifts her hand into the air, causing a violent spire of water to emerge from the ground, striking Phalanx. He seems to be damaged for just a moment, before withstanding the water, laughing, and landing in it, speaking effortlessly and looking even more ominous as a dark shadow from within the water. Phalanx.
Today, you witness the birth of a new legend. The demon who became a god. And when future generations ask about those ignorant enough to stand against me, I shall tell them you were nameless grains of sand, consumed by the tides of fate.
Phalanx raises his hand, now showing a bright blue stone, and yells,
Water!
He starts inhaling all of the water coming out of the ground until he has a full belly. The camera then transitions to a side view. The player is now in battle, and Phalanx unleashes a large water blast from his mouth at the player character. They can block if they're fast. If the player did not choose Ruby for their team, another player will swap in for her and say, Ruby! Cutscene ends, battle starts. This fight is against a much more powerful boss version of Phalanx. He has more moves, his pre-existing special moves are enhanced, he does more damage, and he has 3 life bars stacked on top of each other. I want this to be a fun fight, but also a very, very difficult fight. It should be a scripted loss, but ideally the player would be unsure about whether or not it is when they're playing it. I also have the idea that if you get Phalanx down to a certain amount of life, he uses a level 5 super that makes the skull, bone, spike pillars from his stage, from the much earlier segment involving Firebrand's flashback stories, emerge from the ground and slowly fill with water. The spikes would damage the player when touched, and the water would limit their mobility, perhaps also giving them slippery feeling controls like Luigi in Mario games, or underwater segments in older Mario games. The rising water will also double as a sort of timer for how much time you have left to try to win. Once the water reaches the jaws of the skulls on top of the bone walls, the player will lose. Their character being covered by the water completely will also damage them. If the player manages to take Phalanx's health down to 0, they should be rewarded with a special cutscene or addition to the cutscene and an item, but the chances of them winning should be slim to none. If and or when Firebrand fights Phalanx, he will transform into the legendary demon at around 50% health. However, Phalanx will be able to knock the time gem out of Firebrand, just like in the Capcom-developed Marvel Superheroes fighting game. If Phalanx knocks the gem out of him or collects the gem during the battle, Firebrand loses this ability. Battle ends, cutscene starts. Once the battle ends, if the player got to the point in the fight where they were stuck between the walls of bone, the cutscene will start from there, with the heroes stuck in some sort of bone cage full of water. If they did not, the cutscene will be the same, but with a little extra segment at the beginning, showing Phalanx summoning the bone cage and filling it with water. Once we see the heroes struggling in the water for a beat or two, the cage is disassembled, the water draining as it comes apart. As the water drains away and the heroes fall to the ground, they're all gasping for air, coughing and struggling, writhing. Phalanx.
That was more entertaining than I expected. But it is time to put an end to the charade. Wouldst thou like to revisit some familiar faces, Firebrand?
Phalanx lifts a hand in the sky, the crest of heaven shining brightly as he does so, and with it, numerous hands and arms of bone reach through the ground, grabbing the heroes and holding them down to the ground. The boned arm holding Firebrand is larger and stronger, encasing him inside one of the hands. Phalanx.
Salutations from all the so-called brethren you felled during the war.
Another arm rises next to Firebrand, and it has a jagged blade at the end. Then a body full of skulls, a skull, and legs rise with it. It is Belf, risen from the dead. Firebrand struggles but cannot break free. Phalanx walks towards him, reaches close to his body, into his small utility pouch, and pulls out the time crest. Phalanx.
The crest of time, back to its rightful owner. You see, Firebrand, while your legendary blood has, admittedly, made you painfully persistent,
holding the crest up to Firebrand's face,
without the crests, you are nothing. A fact I shall now prove to the cosmos.
Phalanx puts the green stone away. The skeleton arms holding the heroes down now spring upward, with more arms pushing the heroes from beneath them, propping them all upright, giving them a clear view of Firebrand, who is trapped in the middle of their circle. Ruby Heart.
No! Firebrand!
Phalanx, snapping angrily.
Silence!
Before Ruby or any of the other heroes can call out to Firebrand, new arms arise and clasp their bony hands around their mouths, muffling them. Phalanx, to the book above.
Now! The orb!
The page-wrapped orb, along with the book cover, float down towards Phalanx. The pages quickly remove themselves from the Yishichi, flying back into the book cover and leaving the golden, orange orb in Phalanx's hands. He stares at it almost lustfully. Phalanx.
Demonkind shall be purged of your line in its disease of weak emotions once and for all.
Firebrand.
Please, Phalanx, I'm begging you.
The heroes keep trying to yell, but their voices are muffled by the hands over their mouths. Phalanx. Oh, how I love hearing you beg, Firebrand.
But it will not save you. For once a new legend is born, the old ones must die.
To the orb.
Yashichi, hear my wish. I wish for you to kill Firebrand.
Phalanx lifts the orb above his head, laughing. It begins to glow, its inner fan structure starting to turn and hum. The fan continues to turn, faster, humming louder, glowing brighter. Firebrand looks at Rubyheart, who is looking back at him, a tear swiftly falling from her eye down her cheek. Mysterious embers of energy start emanating from his body. He smiles at her. Softly, Firebrand, to Rubyheart. Thank you, Captain Hart, for fighting by my side. Thank you all. You have become dear friends. Everything will be... Before being able to finish speaking, Firebrand stops moving, the color draining from his body. His body then starts crumbling and falling away, as if made of sand. His bones fall with the sand, jutting out of the pile of dust. Phalanx reaches into the pile of dust that is now Firebrand's remains and retrieves his parcel bag. He then laughs victoriously, while the heroes, though still silenced, are visibly upset. Phalanx. Let this be a lesson to the rest of you vermin. Interfere again, and Firebrand's fate shall become your own. Now, I must tend to matters of greater importance than your insignificant lives. But fret not. You shall again be graced by my presence very soon. With these final words, Phalanx takes the orb, and with the book flying at his side, he rises into the sky. The bone arms withdraw from the heroes who lie or sit on the ground, looking at each other or looking down, saddened, weakened, wounded, confused, stunned. Ruby and Domingo are embracing each other as they sit on the ground. Fade out. The screen fades to black before he is done laughing, and we hear his final laugh finish on a black screen. We stay on the black screen for a beat or two. We see the following words, the day after. Finally, a sound begins to fill the silence. We hear the sound of ice clinking inside of a glass, and then a drink being poured. Interior, bar, night. But it's a small place. The bar is a long stretch of counter. Man, reminds me of Jack's place, minus the zombies. Woman, don't jinx it. A greasy, stout-looking man is behind the bar, and behind him is a wall of various bottles, drinks, libations. He puts his hands on his side of the bar for a moment, engaging with two people, a man and a woman, sitting on the other side of the bar in front of him. The man sitting with the woman is wearing a dark shirt that looks almost like a turtleneck, and dark pants with tactical pockets and straps on them. He also has a brown gun holster that goes up both sides of his back. The woman is wearing a blue top and dark blue skirt with brown boots and a white sweater tied around her waist. We see them only from behind at first. Bartender. Another round? Man. What the hell? We're off duty, right? Woman. My thoughts exactly. The bartender pours them 2 fresh drinks and puts the glasses in front of them, taking the empty ones away. The woman takes her new drink and raises her glass to the man. Woman. To Jack. Man. And to Mike. Solemnly to himself. We never did get to have those drinks. They clink their glasses together and each take a sip. Man. Can't believe it's taken us so long to do this, but I'm glad we could, Joe. You know, you've become something of a legend in our line of work. Jill Valentine. I'm glad too. Though at this point, Leon, I'd say your resume is even more impressive than mine. I mean, the president's daughter? Leon Kennedy. Yeah, we've seen some shit, haven't we? Jill Valentine. Too much. They clink their glasses together again and take another swig of their drinks. We flash forward to the two of them. A few more drinks in. They're still swapping stories. Jill Valentine. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me you put her in a full suit of medieval armor? Leon Kennedy. They couldn't even lift her up. Laughing. Jill Valentine laughing. oh, that's good. It's the little things. You know, speaking of, I actually fought a suit of armor once. Leon Kennedy. Wait, what? I gotta hear this. Jill Valentine. Yeah, it was this huge black suit of armor with green horns, and there was a pirate and a cactus guy and a crash. We suddenly hear a strange noise, like a cross between radio static and the loud impact of something smacking wood. Another building, another bar, is now combined with and connected to the bar Leon and Jill are in, as though two different worlds have been thrown together suddenly and dangerously, violently, leaving parts of the first bar and building destroyed, as if to make room to connect to the new bar that is taking up some of the same space. The other bar, now joining theirs, is a little more dimly lit, with more neon lighting. A woman with a slightly buck-toothed smile and glasses, a man in a blue coat with short silver-white hair, and a man in a red coat with longer silver-white hair, all sitting together, are now sitting at the same bar as Leon and Jill, only on the side that crashed into the first bar. They all look very surprised. Jill and Leon jump slightly and are looking in their direction. Dante. Well, you don't see that every day. Dante, the legendary demon hunter, looks around at the building after realizing something strange has happened. Nero, drink in hand. What the hell? Looks down and realizes he spilled some of his drink on himself. Oh, come on! I just washed these. Nico. I had no idea having a few drinks with me will get you all worked up. You're practically soaked through. Nero, annoyed. I'm not all... Getting up hastily. I'm going to the bathroom. As Dante looks around the room, he spots Jill, and his eyes are fixed on her, as if he recognizes her. She looks around at the new building that just collided with the old building, and then makes eye contact with him. She quickly breaks eye contact and looks straight ahead. Jill Valentine to herself. Oh my god. Is that Dante? No, there's no way that's Dante. Leon Kennedy to Jill. You know that guy, huh? Is all this, pointing to the new building, his handiwork? Actually, he does look kind of familiar. Like I know him from somewhere. Shrugging. Maybe in another life. Jill Valentine to Leon. Wait a minute. You also see the bar that is now inside of the bar? Leon Kennedy. Yep. Jill Valentine. Whew. For a minute, I was getting a little worried there, but if it's not the drinks... Dante walks up to Jill. Dante. Jill Valentine. Good to see ya. Hey, you mind telling me what the hell is going on? Jill Valentine. Your guess is as good as mine. 1 minute, Leon and I are swapping stories, and the next minute, crash! We hear the same static buzzing mixed with hard impact noise as before. And again, and again, and again. We now look at the bar and the building is a jumbled mess, a Frankensteining of different bar areas across the entire Capcom universe, including Garuda's Saloon from Power Stone, with its wooden, old Western decor and saloon-style doors, and a mini-bar inside the lobby of Hotel Masters, Ken's hotel and stage from Alpha 3. There are various and numerous Capcom heroes spread out among the hodgepodge of building types, decors, and strange, mashed-up furniture. Jill, Leon, and Dante all look at each other, comically worried expressions on their faces. Interior, the Franken Bar. Night, later. Cut to a bunch of characters all sitting around a table in a circular booth. There's Jill, Leon, Unknown Soldier, Jin Sao Tome, Kraken, Felicia, Ingrid, Armika, Princess Tiara, Zangief, Black Tiger, Lord Raptor, and plenty of others. Phoenix Wright is asking various characters questions and taking notes on a legal pad. Phoenix Wright. And tell me, Mr. Lord Raptor. Raptor. Lord Raptor. Thank you. Mr. Lord Raptor, prior to you appearing here, you were doing Lord what Raptor. Exactly? Just like everyone else. I was at my local pub. Sorry, I cannot do Australian. I am deeply sorry to the Australian community. If there's anyone Australian watching this, I do not know how to do an Australian accent. Phoenix Wright. I see. It's all clear now. Jill Valentine. What's clear? Phoenix Wright. What's happened is an evil wizard has summoned every world together to fight for his amusement. All the characters put their heads in their hands, disappointed and dumbfounded at his conclusion. Leon Kennedy. Yeah, I don't think that's it. To Jill. Jill, you've seen universes collide like this before, right? Jill Valentine. Sort of. They collided, just not quite this forcefully. Like that time Phoenix, Dante, and I fought a space giant. Or the armor I mentioned earlier that I fought with the pirate? It's the pirate! Leon Kennedy. Hey, calm down. What about the pirate? Jill Valentine. The pirate and the cactus guy, they're right over there! All the heroes sitting at the table look to the right. The camera pans slowly in that direction, and finally settles on a part of the interior that resembles the minibar of Hotel Masters. Amingo and Sylphie are sitting at the corner of the bar next to Ruby Heart, who has her hat off and head down on the counter. We don't know if she is sleeping or unconscious, but there are several glasses in front of her. The bartender is a mild-mannered man with gray-white hair, a mustache, and thick glasses. Amingo, to the bartender. I'll take another water, please. Make it a double. Bartender, gesturing to Ruby Heart. And for the lady? Ruby Heart clumsily lifts her head up from the counter and squints at the bartender. She imitates him sleepily. Ruby Heart. And for the lady? Sylphie, to the bartender. She's good, thanks. The bartender shrugs innocently, pours Amingo his water, and moves down the counter to other customers. Ruby grabs Amingo's sombrero by each side, shaking it and him as she speaks, tripping over her own tongue as she talks. Ruby Heart. I saved me. I couldn't do it. Amingo. None of us could, Ruby. It's not your fault. Ruby Heart. And the wish I didn't get that right, because I had it, the orb was there, and I was there, and nothing happened. Ruby continues to mutter to herself in the background before groaning, putting her head back down. Sylphie. She's a mess. Not that I blame her. Amingo. Yeah, well, she wouldn't be if it weren't for your stupid map. When she asked you to find the nearest watering hole, it immediately marked this place. And you told her about it with no hesitation. Sylphie. Stupid map? Stupid map? If it weren't for this map, we wouldn't have gotten anywhere. She begged me to do it, and it came up right away. What was I supposed to do? Amingo. Oh, I don't know. Pretend like it found nothing, maybe? You know why she wanted to come to an establishment like this? And didn't you say it only showed important places? You think this place is important? Sylphie. Well, I don't know. Maybe there's money here. Amingo. Money. That's all you care about, isn't it? Sylphie. That's not true. While you were still brooding over your guy's little blow-up, I was down in that cave with Firebrand and with her. Amingo. Hey, that's not... Suddenly, an unruly man, Frank West, approaches the bar next to Sylphie, bumping into her like a klutz, interrupting what Sylphie was going to say. Sylphie. Whoa, whoa, easy there, pal. As she gets bumped into, Sylphie clasps one hand firmly and protectively on her pouch, ensuring it does not open and spill. Amingo sees how protective she is about it and narrows his eyes with scrutiny. Frank West. Sorry about that. Sorry. Hey, I'm a reporter, you know. Smiling. Sylphie, rolling her eyes. And I'm a demigod. Get lost. The man looks slightly hurt by her rejection and then continues down the bar, sitting down far away from her to order a beverage. Sylphie, to Amingo. Jeez, can you believe that guy? Amingo. Yeah. Say, what's in the pouch, Sylphie? Sylphie. What? Amingo. You seem real protective of it. And now that I think about it, you've been wearing it since you joined up with us. So, what's in it? We see Amingo sneakily put his hand behind him and lower Vines toward the ground, towards her pouch. Sylphie. Nanya! Amingo. Just tell me. Sylphie. It's personal, okay? I keep it safe because my pouch... My pouch! Where's my pouch? She feels her waist and it's no longer there. We see it being carried back into Amingo's hand behind him from his vines. She gets up and is looking around under her seat, then looks at the bar and sees Amingo about to open it. Sylphie. Hey, give that back! Amingo. Tell me what's in it. The two of them both grab the pouch and play tug-of-war with it, straining to gain control. After a beat, they drop it on the floor and it opens, revealing a handful of diamonds, coins, dollar bills, etc. Sylphie looks at Amingo with embarrassment, and he looks at her in shock and disgust. Amingo. I should have known. Sylphie. Wait, I can explain. Amingo. All those fights we fought, all that time we wasted looking for more money when we could have been preparing or finding leads on the eye. Sylphie. It's for a rainy day. Amingo. Rainy day? It's been a rainy day ever since we came into your shop. But who cares if it pours on the rest of us? You had an umbrella the whole time. Sylphie, ashamed. Before she could continue, Amingo gets approached by a woman. Jill Valentine. Hey, Mingo, right? Amingo. Jill? Hey, what are you doing here? How did you get here? Jill Valentine. I was gonna ask you the same thing, but given the circumstances the last time we saw each other, I doubt it's anything good. Amingo to himself. Phalanx. To Jill. It's not.
Let's head back to Ruby's ship and I'll explain everything. And bring any hero willing to join.
Jill Valentine. Okay, looking at Ruby. Is she gonna be alright? Ruby Heart, clumsily to everyone around her.
I'm a failure, and my dad always knew I was a failure. That's why he didn't want me around. He knew from the start. I'll never find the eye now. I'm not fit to be on his crew. I'm not fit for anything.
Amingo to Jill. Will she be alright?
I sure hope so.
Come on, let's get going. Amingo takes Ruby Heart and hoists her up, causing something to fall from her pockets without anyone noticing. Jill helps him and they begin to head towards the exit, near where the other heroes are. Sylphie picks up her pouch and starts to leave with them. Jill Valentine to Amingo. You gonna introduce me to your friend? Amingo looks at Sylphie with disdain. Amingo. Oh, her? No. She's the type who only cares about herself. She's staying here. Sylphie looks at Amingo, saddened. Him and Jill take Ruby and turn away, heading towards the other heroes and leaving the bar/bars with some of them. After they're gone, Sylphie puts her head in her hands, cheeks in her palms, hands on the sides of her face, and looks sad for a few moments, before noticing the thing that fell from Ruby's coat pocket. She reaches down and grabs it. Sylphie. A photo. We get a pulled-out shot of Sylphie at the bar. No one near her, looking at the photo, looking at the pouch, now on the counter. Demon Realm. Night. Earlier. Not sure if the word earlier should appear on the screen or not, since the player might be able to tell when this occurs because of the scene. We see an aerial view of the land of the Demon Realm and the nearby sea in a style similar to when you fly over the world in Demon's Crest. A whirlpool begins to form in the sea, and shortly after, Phalanx shoots upward out of the whirlpool and into the air, along with the Yoshichi Orb and a book. The screen twists and turns as we follow him flying over the realm, and finally, to a large castle-like building, his fortress. He dives, descends towards / into the building, and everything gets blown up, pixelated, as he does so, until the screen goes black for a moment. How many times can I do this? Interior, Phalanx's fortress. Hall of Agonized Souls. Night. Continuous. We now see Phalanx in his fortress in a new area, the Hall of Agonized Souls. It is a very large chamber with immeasurable ledges laid with purple bars / pipes / curtains. It's hard to tell from the pixel art. Adorned with bones and skulls. There are also a multitude of candles and candelabras closer to the foreground. Numerous bookcases also adorn the background. Phalanx is towards the left side of the frame, flipping through pages of his magical book, the Ga Anua, as his green-robed, bald servant and Arma both enter from the right side through an archway. He closes the book and puts it away on the bookshelf. The orb of Yoshichi is sitting next to the bookcase inside of a giant pedestal with skulls on it and a large, curved depression, thus holding the orb perfectly. The demon and Arma make their way to Phalanx. Arma looks uneasy. As he turns around, they take a knee and kneel their heads in front of him and speak to him in this pose. Okay, now I have to try to remember all the different voices that I did before for everyone. Demon. Greetings, my lord. You must have just returned. We are pleased your journey was a safe and undoubtedly fruitful one. Phalanx. Indeed. Demon. If I may ask, my lord, the Yoshichi, has it been completed? Phalanx.
It has, and its powers along with it. I am now the strongest being in the cosmos, and shall begin preparations for the rule of all realms immediately.
Demon.
Oh, what wonderful news! 'Tis your birthright, after all.
Phalanx smiles with one side of his mouth for a moment at his servant's loyalty and praise. He then stops smiling, walking closer to Arma, looking at him skeptically. Phalanx.
What of the crests, Arma?
Arma.
My lord, myself and the search party have been working tirelessly since your departure, but unfortunately, we have yet to find any others, and the number of party members dying from exhaustion has increased.
Phalanx. Angrily.
Exhaustion? Well, perhaps they will feel adequately rested once I place their weary heads on a pike.
Arma. Shakily.
I apologize for my inadequacy, sire.
Phalanx looks at him and studies him for a moment, before smiling to himself. He then gets on one knee in front of Arma, and lifts Arma's head with his hand, so that their eyes meet. Arma looks more uneasy than before, as if he is bracing himself for something, but trying to hide it. There is a sudden and drastic change in Phalanx's tone. Phalanx.
Inadequacy? Oh my, No. You are my general, my right hand. If anything, I pity you. Every step of the way, you have proven your worth and your loyalty above all else. And yet you constantly find yourself at the mercy of my followers, who are really more than glorified livestock. It isn't your fault they can't work hard enough to meet the demands of my growing kingdom. They are at fault, not you.
Phalanx gives him a soft smile, though he tries to hide it. Arma exhales deeply. Arma.
Thank you, my lord.
Demon.
Lord Phalanx, I have an idea. What if we simply use the orb to gather the crests?
Phalanx.
Enticing. But no, only 4 wishes were given, and after using one to eliminate that sub-demon Firebrand, only 3 remain. We do not need its magic to find the crests, only time and a search party that is actually competent.
At the news of Firebrand's death, Arma looks downward and to the side. He closes his eyes for just a moment, as if to process and mourn Firebrand as quickly and covertly as possible. Arma to himself under his breath.
Firebrand, heavens, no.
Phalanx catches him saying something and cocks his head to the side slightly. Phalanx.
Did you have something to add, General Arma? Is there a problem?
Arma.
No problem, my lord.
Phalanx.
Good. Begin the hunt for new recruits to aid in our search for the crests. In the meantime, I shall use the book to study more about these other worlds and contemplate what wish should be made next. You are dismissed.
Demon and Arma.
Thank you, Lord Phalanx.
Arma and the demon bow more deeply before getting back onto their feet and making their way to the exit archway. The bald demon is walking faster than Arma, who is still making haste. But before Arma can get through the archway, we hear Phalanx call for him. Phalanx.
Oh, Arma, could you return to me but a moment? I nearly forgot one more minor matter to discuss.
Arma freezes in front of the archway before responding hesitantly. Arma.
Yes, my lord.
He walks back to Phalanx. Once standing in front of him, Phalanx smugly takes out the crest of time and holds it up in front of Arma's face. Phalanx.
How did Firebrand escape the Colosseum with this in his possession?
Arma's eyes widen out of fear. Arma.
I do not know.
Phalanx.
I see. Well, do you know how he came to learn the means to travel to other realms?
Arma.
No, sire.
Phalanx.
It seems there is much you do not know, Arma. Just like you do not know that when I used the orb to turn Firebrand into a pile of remains, I found this in his parcel bag.
Phalanx extends his hand towards Arma with a page in it. Arma takes it and reads it, then looks down. It is the page from the book he ripped out and gave to Firebrand so long ago that told him how to get to other worlds. Arma, trembling.
Sire,
Before he can finish speaking, Phalanx grabs him by the throat and lifts him up. His forehead splits open slightly, revealing the crest of heaven. It glows, as does his eyes, and his skin and wings change from their usual silver blue to a light gold and teal. Phalanx takes Arma by the throat and smashes him into one of the walls of the chamber, shattering a stained glass window in the background and forcing the page to fall from Arma's hand. The book flies out of the bookcase sneakily, slowly, quietly, and the page flies into the book. Then, while Phalanx is occupied, it scans the Yashichi with its eye. The wall is heavily damaged, as is Arma, and the camera focuses back on him and Phalanx. Phalanx's voice now has the same menacing double effect as it did when he used the Crest of Heaven previously. Phalanx.
You disappoint me, Arma. I thought you were wise enough to know I cannot be fooled, but it would appear I was wrong.
Arma.
What are you going to do with me?
Phalanx.
That is a respectable question.
Phalanx looks at the green crest of time in his other hand and smiles, baring his monstrous fangs. Phalanx.
I shall use the crest of time to decide your fate, for it always reads true. If, after peering into its records, I see that you are telling the truth and played no part in assisting Firebrand, you shall remain unharmed. If, however, I see that it was in fact you who betrayed me, you shall suffer a fate worse than death ever could be.
The crest of heaven shines brightly for a moment, and a group of skulls on the architecture of the chamber move off of the fixtures they're on and towards Arma, who is still being pinned to the wall. The skulls gather around Arma and then jut up from the wall, revealing full skeleton torsos. They readily grab at Arma, pinning him to the wall as he struggles, and as Phalanx takes his hand away. With an upward motion of his now free hand, Phalanx creates a throne underneath him, made entirely of bones. With his other hand, he gently lifts the crest of time into the air. It stays there, floating and spinning slowly. The entire room darkens, aside from Phalanx's face, now even more frightening, highlighted by the green glow. Phalanx smiling ferociously to Arma.
Gaze unto the crest, and all shall be revealed.
Exterior, Ruby's airship, top deck, day, later, present. Amingo and a bunch of the other heroes are on the top deck of the ship. Ruby Hart is not present. Jill Valentine. All right, folks, listen up. We now know what we're up against and how serious things are. Phalanx has won the battle and will probably be more powerful than ever when he comes back for the war. Phoenix Wright. So, what do you suggest, Miss Valentine? Jill Valentine. Long term, I'm still working on that one. But the first step is to do what we have done anytime there's been a threat like this. We stay prepared. We keep training and keep fighting. So, who wants next? From here, the player is prompted to spar or train, if they would like, and can choose any team of their liking for themselves and the CPU. If the player decides on mirror matches, Jill will comment on how the toughest battles we face are those we fight with ourselves, and wish the player good luck. Ideally, there will be some options before you begin training, such as time limit, super meter settings, if you want extra help, i.e. sailors from Ruby's crew holding up cue cards with move commands, tips, strategies, etc., in the background depending on the character, etc. The player should be able to train as much as they want here since they now have access to a lot of new characters and since they just made it through a super long stretch of scenes without gameplay. We return to the ship after all of the training. The heroes look tired. Others, for those whose personality it fits, are either reading books noticeably titled Strategy Guide or sitting, drawing in front of a whiteboard with different strategies or commands on them, such as commands LP plus HP plus quarter circle forward plus HK, etc. Jill looks at all of them and smiles, then wipes her forehead with a towel before turning around towards the staircase heading down to the lower chambers. The camera is now using a shot behind Jill and over her shoulder. We see Ruby Hart walk up the stairs, hand on her head, as if she has a headache. Jill Valentine. There she is. Amingo and some of the other heroes look in her direction, stand up, and come to where Jill is. Ruby Hart, eyes wincing in slight pain. What did I miss? She rubs her head for a moment as if to soothe it, and then opens her eyes, seeing all of the heroes. We get a shot of the heroes waving hello at her and smiling. Ruby Hart. Quite a lot, it seems. Amingo. I figured we could use all the help we can get, so I invited Jill and the rest along. Ruby Hart. Thanks, Ami. Good thinking. Jill Valentine. Hey, Ruby. We're happy to help. Just like old times. Glad you're doing all right. Ruby Hart. Thank you. We need you guys, especially after Firebrand. Ruby Hart looks down for a moment, saddened. Jill Valentine. Yeah, Amingo filled us in. I'm sorry for your loss. We all are. But even though Phalanx has the orb, there has to be a way to take him down. There's always a way. With these last words, Jill puts a hand on her shoulder. Ruby looks up at her, smiles gently, and nods. Dante approaches Jill, Ruby, and Amingo. Dante. Especially with the best demon hunter in any universe on your side. Name's Dante. He extends his hand for a shake. Ruby Hart shakes his hand. Ruby Hart. Good to know, and glad to have you on board. Dante. Yeah, well, it's just what we do, right? So, now that formalities are out of the way, where to, Captain? Suddenly there's a swirl of light on the deck of the ship, as if someone was teleporting themselves there. We see a character slowly materialize onto the deck of the ship, and as they become more solid, find out it's Sylphie. Ruby Hart. Hey, Sylphie? Wait, Sylphie? You weren't on the ship already? Don't worry, Ruby. I'll handle this. Amingo slides towards her in his quote-unquote onion ball form, and reverts back to normal just in front of her. He is more surprised than upset. Amingo. You've got some nerve coming back here, you know. I thought I said... Sylphie. Yeah, I know what you said. Look, I didn't come here to fight. I came here because there was some truth to what you said about me. Amingo. Excuse me? Sylphie. I do care about money, okay? Like, a lot. More than I care about anything else, really. At least, I did, until I met you guys.
I mean, I do need money, don't get me wrong. It's kind of what keeps me from becoming a boring mortal, but it was selfish of me to hold out on everyone like that. Especially now that I consider you guys my friends. Like, my first friends ever. What I'm trying to say is, I'm sorry. Amingo's harsh expression softens a little bit. He takes a deep breath and exhales. Amingo. Thanks, Sophie. To be honest, I think what I said last night was a bit harsh. After all, you did help us get the Y tracker, and since you know how to read it, you were there on the front lines, just like you said, when I wasn't. So, I'm sorry too. I guess I've just been a little stressed out. Ruby's the only family I have, and I've just been scared that she'd find the eye, find her dad, and I'd be alone again. Boy, when I say it out loud, I sound like the selfish one.
Sophie, smiling.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being a little selfish. You're protective of her because you care about her, and that's really cool. But if she really is your family, you should want her to be happy too.
She takes out the photo she picked up at the bar, and still, without us seeing what it's of, hands it to Amingo. Sophie.
Which is kind of why I came back, actually, to make things right.
He looks at the photo, then smiles softly and nods.
Amingo. You're right. And I do want her to be happy. Really. But make things right? What do you mean?
Sophie.
Hold this for a sec.
Sophie hands Amingo the magic map. He holds it in his hands, flat and spread out. She then takes her side pouch, the one that had her money stash in it, and after closing her eyes for a second to psych herself up, she takes a deep breath and drops it into the map. It vanishes, getting absorbed into the map. Amingo.
What are you doing?
Sophie then whispers into Amingo's ear. As he's listening, his eyes widen with surprise. He then nods as he listens to the rest when she withdraws from his side, looks at her with understanding and a slight nod. Sophie then bends down and brings her face close to the map, whispering something to it. It slowly becomes occupied with a small, blue glowing point. Amingo.
Yeah, it's time.
Sophie and Amingo then head back to Jill, Dante, and Rubyheart, who have been in the background watching them. Rubyheart. Is everything okay over here? Or should I be worried? Sophie.
Nope. No worries. It's all good here. Right, Amingo?
Amingo.
Yeah. Yep. We were just, figuring out where to go next. Take a look, Ruby.
Interior. Magic map screen. Day. Continuous. The glowing dot indicating the area is a dark blue instead of the usual red. Until we are taken out of the map screen, all dialogue is heard and seen as subtitles, without seeing the character saying them. Amingo.
Looks like the map has another place for us to visit. Seems important, too.
Rubyheart. Yeah, it does. It does look different than usual. What did you say to it, Sophie? Sophie.
Me? Oh, just some words of encouragement. But I'm still not sure what's there. An important treasure, maybe?
Rubyheart. Not the eye, that's for sure. I can't believe I was holding the orb in my hands and my wish failed. Amingo.
I know how hard it's been, Ruby, but we have nothing to lose by checking it out, right? Besides, I have a good feeling about this place.
Exterior. Ruby's airship. Top deck. Day. Continuous. Rubyheart. And if Phalanx is there? Jill Valentine. If I may, Captain, based on what I've been told, I doubt he'd be back so soon, given he was victorious, but chose to retreat. Rubyheart. Well, I hope you're right. To all of the heroes. Hang on, everyone, and be on guard. It's time to set sail. From here, the player will get another prompt from Jill and can choose to spar with their own team and a CPU team again, but now has Ruby to practice with, fight against too. If they select no, or they choose to stop sparring, things will progress. After sparring, we get a quick fade out and fade in to the airship flying towards the horizon, so we see the back of it, from the upper right corner of the frame to the lower left part of the frame in a curved, swift, straight-moving trajectory. The camera holds on the shot as the ship disappears into the horizon, but as it does, the sky darkens as quickly as the ship is flying, and we hear the loud crack of thunder. Exterior, Demon Realm. Overworld view, night. Flashback. Suddenly, with a thick sheet of dark clouds and stormy weather, we see the Demon Realm again. We start to recognize the oncoming scenes as familiar, but slightly different. For the second time, we see Firebrand flying over the ocean after obtaining all of the crests. Phalanx. Voiceover.
This recalcitrant stone.
Voiceover to the crest itself.
I recall my victory quite well, damn you. This revisitation is a waste of my time.
We see a shadowy figure take off and trail him. As they fly, we now see the figure as a white, silvery demon with blue in his wings, sharp goat-like horns, hollowed eyes, sharp teeth, and a slender but long, muscular frame. He makes his way behind Firebrand and starts charging up energy. We see him glow as energy moves from the outside of his body to his center. Arma, voiceover.
What is this? You told all of us you'd claimed the crest by defeating Firebrand honorably, yet there is no honor to be seen.
Phalanx, voiceover.
Silence! One more outburst and I shall remove your ability to speak permanently.
Then in a large blast, an electrical orb is released from Phalanx and hits Firebrand. We see electricity course through his body as he starts falling. Of course, this is familiar to us, but this time we see more. Time slows down the moment Firebrand is stricken with the electrical blast. We see the electrical charge spread out from the area of impact to the rest of his body. Tiny currents move all across Firebrand. They move to the satchel bag, but the crests are seemingly protected from the blast by the bag itself. And then we see electricity spread to one of his hands, the one holding the time crest. Unprotected, the current binds to it and quickly yet violently moves across the crest, causing a few tiny shards to burst out of the crest and into Firebrand's torso, lodging themselves there, eventually becoming absorbed. The crest of time is seen being left almost entirely unharmed except for some hairline fractures where the shards exited, unnoticeable unless you were looking for them up close. Phalanx, voiceover, slightly uneasy.
What importance could this possibly have? It's inconsequential.
The Phalanx of the flashback, seeing that his blast struck Firebrand successfully, quickly dives towards his falling body. As the time crest finds itself just about to leave Firebrand's claw, Phalanx retrieves it, then pulls out on the satchel bag with the other hand. It breaks away easily from the force of Firebrand's falling body against it, which quickly makes its way to the sea below and enters it with a strong splash. Fade out. Interior, Phalanx's fortress. Night. Flashback. Continuous. Again, we see the crest gently float in a circular formation near the center of the frame, against the inside of a building with archways and demon-faced torches inside of slender columns. It's similar to the Colosseum, but different. The archways are twisted in shape, and the color of the architecture is different. As the crests descend, they reveal a pair of clawed white hands, followed by the demon's head and body. It's holding its hands up to the crests. We see the crests circle above Phalanx's hands, but this time, as they do, all crests have an occasional white glint to them, except for one, the crest of time. We again get a close-up shot of the tiny punctures/cracks in the crest. It shakes violently within the circular formation. They spin faster and faster, getting closer and closer to each other while generating a white light, and as they do, the occasional flash of white on the other crests each becomes red. It is apparent that because the crest of time is damaged, something is wrong, but the Phalanx in the flashback, with his lust for power, is oblivious to it. Arma, voiceover, quietly to himself.
Heavens, no.
Phalanx.
With Firebrand defeated, I shall reign supreme. The demon realm and the human realm shall be mine. Now, mighty crests, deliver unto me the power of infinity.
The camera pans out severely, and we see a faint light beam where Phalanx is. It disappears for a moment, and then the sky turns red and black, accompanied by the sound of an ominous drone. Flame spreads from the point of the fortress to all other places in the realm. A wall of flame begins filling the frame. Firebrand's body is seen washed up on some shore nearby. He weakly looks up at the inferno with horror in his eyes. Arma, voiceover.
It was you. How could you?
Phalanx, voiceover.
No, this is not. You are the one on trial here, not I.
To the time crest.
Listen here, you infernal stone. Show me what I desire to see. Shall I have Arma's head or not?
Exterior, Demon Realm cliff, night, flashback. The camera pans up a very tall cliff. When it reaches the top, we see Firebrand standing with stars in the background. This too is familiar to us, but again, this time we get more information. We get a close-up of Firebrand's torso and see the small wounds where the shards of the time crest pierced his body. Around each one, there begins to shine a dull green glow. As the dull glow persists, twinkling embers of mysterious energy begin to emanate upwards from his body. He takes a look at his hand for a moment and throws all of the crests off of the cliff. We hear Firebrand's voice tell us old lines now with new context. Firebrand voiceover.
I took the crest to the highest point in all the realm and cast them off, thinking my journey and the pain demonkind had needlessly endured was over. But much like Phalanx, I had made a grave error. And instead of ending 1,000 years of war, disaster, and tyranny,
The camera follows the crest off of the cliff. They fall through the clouds and then land on the ground below in a circular pattern, just as they did in Firebrand's first flashback sequence. We see the same 6 demon arms as long before reach into the frame to grab a crest, one of them having its hand cut off by Belth's jagged blade. Firebrand voiceover.
I forced them to repeat indefinitely.
Interior, Demon Coliseum. Night, flashback. We are immediately taken to the Demon Coliseum at the end of the fight we saw much earlier between Firebrand and Samulo, the demon dragon. We again see the familiar sight of various columns, archways, torches, and chambers in the background, as well as the earthen soil it is built upon, littered with bones. Again, much of the Colosseum columns are fractured, broken, or destroyed. There can be a prompt here asking if the player would like to fight Samulo as Firebrand again. If so, they will fight and the script will continue as written once he is defeated. If not, the script will simply continue as written without the fight. Arma, voiceover.
Firebrand was telling the truth.
Samulo lets out a small, strained cry and then collapses completely. Firebrand looks down for a moment, saddened. Arma leaves his perch and flies down to Firebrand. Arma, in the flashback.
Impressive. You fought as if you knew his every move beforehand.
Firebrand.
He has been felled by my hand more times than I can say. I relish it not.
Arma.
And how do you know about the crest?
Firebrand.
As I said, my story is true.
Arma looks at Firebrand with scrutiny for a moment. He then reaches into a small side pouch and pulls out a shining green crest and a folded page torn from a book. Arma.
Should it prove false, I will grant the king reprieve and hunt you down myself.
The image of Arma and Firebrand speaking changes, becoming more and more green. Then there is a brilliant display of light starting from the outer edges of the frame, moving inwards, as though we are being taken out of the crest. There is one last forceful swirl of light and green color before finding ourselves on a black screen for a beat. Arma, voiceover to Phalanx.
You, by the old ones, have truly doomed us all.
Exterior, Island Village, day.